We've got a retirement fight for Dustin Poirier at UFC 318 and not a ton else, but that's okay. It's DFS. We've got a lot of other stuff for you. Possibly Max Holloway getting his revenge.
UFC 318, it is the retirement fight for Dustin Poirier. He's taking on Max Holloway for the BMF title. And in this video, Josh Engleman and I, we're going to try to build the perfect DFS lineup for you using the Stokastic single lineup sim. So do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want a chance to win a free MMA sub for yourself, leave a comment below. Let us know, who do you think wins the main event between Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway, and how many DraftKings fantasy points are they going to score? Whoever gets the correct answer in terms of the winning fighter, and then also gets the closest to the pin for who scores the most fantasy points, you're going to win yourself a free Stokastic MMA sim sub. So let us know down below who wins and how many fantasy points do they score. If you're trying to build the perfect lineup, you're going to have to get yourself exposure to the main event this weekend. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, both of them are extremely good DraftKings scores, landing at a really high rate. Max Holloway lands 7.16 significant strikes per minute. Dustin Poirier lands 5.3 significant strikes per minute, and also carries some wrestling and grappling upside. We saw him look to wrestle and grapple a good amount in the second matchup between the two of them in the fourth and fifth rounds of that fight. So the way that I'm looking at this is I don't really have a lean on who I think is going to win the fight. I think it's a coin flip, but I do know that we need a lot of exposure to the main event. So all of my lineups are going to have either Holloway or Poirier in them. And for myself, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Poirier for my DFS exposure, not because I think he's massively more likely to win, but simply because I think he's going to be the lesser owned of the two. Even though he's 2-0 in matchups against Max Holloway, the betting lines have moved very strongly in favor of Holloway. He's around a minus 140 favorite at the time I'm recording this. And I think that's going to dictate ownership. So where I think that this fight is 50-50, I think the field is going to be a little bit more on the side of Max Holloway. So I'll be a little bit different by playing a little bit more of Dustin Poirier. But ultimately, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to both these fighters. You must roster the main event this weekend.
I dug in pretty deep to all of the different 9K fighters that we can get to. We have 5 separate fighters on this card that are all about 80% to win. That's like minus 600 in the betting markets. But the one that I want to get to the most based on our data, it's going to be Kevin Holland. Now he's sitting there at 9,300 taking on Daniel Rodriguez in a fight that we thought we were getting whenever the hell this one fell apart, when everybody on the card just fought different versions of people on the card. But I think Holland is the guy that we want to get to. Now, all of these guys that I just mentioned that are like 80% to win, all in that 9K range, they're all pulling basically the same amount of ownership too. They're in that 20 to 25% range. But Kevin Holland has the second highest odds of a top 6 score of anybody on this card. And yet he's still matching the similar ownership as everybody else in his range. He's just north of 50% to win this fight inside of distance. You're going to want to finish if you're getting him, or you're going to want a billion takedowns and a ton of strikes as well. We can kind of get there in 2 different ways. Now, both of these guys prefer to strike. Holland loves getting out there, standing and banging, and Daniel Rodriguez doesn't stop striking. He lands like 8+ significant strikes per minute. He's going out there with heavy volume. That also allows him to get hit a little bit more than you would like, and Holland takes a little bit less from a striking perspective. Those guys are, I don't want to say they're balanced on the feet, but like that's where you expect to see this. And if it's working well for Holland, awesome. I think he'll continue it. But if it's not, he's got a second option, and that's the ground game. Now, I don't want to try to claim that he's like an illustrious wrestler, but he's going to look for it, and he's going to throw up subs a lot. Rodriguez, not the case. He does not look for any sort of takedowns, basically ever. He spends like 85% of his time at distance, so he's going to want to avoid the ground game when he can. That, I think, is the angle that makes me like Kevin Holland a little bit more, because while I think that he can just outstrike him on the feet, the backup plan of having to take this to the ground and grab a sub equally is likely. Both of those finish bets are pretty similar in the betting market, so it can come from either angle. That's what's helpful to me. But the fact that we're not getting a ton of ownership here, roughly 20% for someone with a 50+% chance of being a top 6 scorer, makes it very easy. I got to get Kevin Holland.
Just like last week, this is another card where it is pretty difficult to find salary saving options. There isn't anybody for cheap that I think is massively likely to end up winning their fight. So in the same thing I did last week, where I went with, if there's no fighters who are cheap that I'm really confident are going to win, it's who is cheap that I think is the most likely to score well in a win. And that was what had us landing on Walter Walker. I feel the same way about Paulo Costa this weekend. He lands north of 6 significant strikes per minute. So wins from Costa typically score pretty well from a DraftKings perspective. But also on top of it, it's a pretty good buy low spot for Paulo Costa. This is the easiest opponent that he has fought in quite some time in Roman Kopylov, whereas Kopylov is probably facing the stiffest test of his entire career. If you look at Paulo Costa's most recent matchups, Sean Strickland, Robert Whittaker, he's fighting the top of the top in the division, and he's actually a bigger underdog to Roman Kopylov than he was against Strickland or against Whittaker. So I think this is a good buy low spot for Paulo Costa, and I think the books are overreacting a little bit to recent results and not considering the strength of opponents that he's been fighting.
So now we take these picks to the single lineup simulator at Stokastic.com and we find out just what were we able to build. I added Kevin Holland, I added Dustin Poirier, and I added Paulo Costa. The only thing we have left to do is fill out these final 3 spots with the optimal 3 plays from the rest of our data. And we can do that by clicking complete this lineup. That'll give us the best of what we've got left. And this gives us a 9K Jimmy Crute. It gives us an $8,700 Ryan Spahn, and it gives us a $7,700 pay down for Kyler Phillips. So that fills out the rest of our lineups. Now we need to find out, is this lineup any good? We'll click run lineup simulation to find out. And boy, did we knock this one out of the park. I think we played a really good ownership game here. 164% sim ROI. This is one of the best lineups I've ever built using this tool on the MMA side. A 0.6% chance to win, a 5% chance of being a top 10% lineup, and a 60% cash rate. I think we built a gem, no salary left unturned, but maybe you don't like this particular build. It's easy. Hop into the single lineup sim, take a guy out, add in whoever you're looking for, and rerun that simulation to find out, did you build a perfect lineup?